Calaroga Shark Media.
I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Shane Gillis getting a deal with Netflix. Talk about that in a second. But Jimmy Fallon had a good joke about Trump winning the South Carolina primary, which was Trump actually had two versions of his speech. One, a victory speech in case he won, and a victory speech in case he lost. Hey, Seth Meyers celebrated his 10th year anniversary. Guess who stopped by? I made an edit here for pacing, but let's listen.
Welcome back, everybody. We're here with my very good friend, Amy Poehler. We were talking about the first show back in 2014. Your fellow guest, he was kind enough to follow you that night, Vice President Joe Biden.
Yeah, that was very special. Very special.
He was a class act.
Yeah.
We did try to get him for our 10-year anniversary show. Obviously, he got his bigger job now, so he was unavailable.
Oh, you couldn't get him?
I couldn't get him, no.
Oh, I could get him. Hey, Mr. President.
Welcome back, Mr. President.
It's good to be back. Why haven't you invited me earlier?
Well...
Of note, Seth did wear a suit. I mentioned yesterday he hadn't been wearing a suit, but I guess when you know POTUS is coming by, you suit up. All right, Shane Gillis has a new deal with Netflix. They've acquired the independently produced sitcom Tires from Shane. He stars and serves as executive producer. 6 episodes, self-financed. It'll premiere on May 23rd. As part of the deal, Netflix will also produce a new stand-up special with Shane. That'll be his second. In Tires, Stephen Gerben plays Will, the nervous and unqualified heir to an auto repair chain. Will attempts to turn his father's business around despite constant torture from his cousin and now employee, Shane. Shane is played by... That's right, Shane Gillis. Who do you think I was going to say? I shared in the Daily Comedy News podcast group a sketch that did not make SNL. It is wonderful. I would share it with you here, but it wouldn't make sense. It's a takeoff on the insurance ads with the emu. Hey, ad agency, I'm thinking here, I can't even remember what it's advertising. But, the one with the emu. And it's basically a riff on Training Day where Shane and the emu go to investigate a case and things go sideways like they do in Training Day. Barstool Sports wrote, "What the F? How did this not make the cut? Finally, something different and hysterical from SNL, and they left it on the cutting room floor. Makes me wonder what else they're keeping from us. We had to sit through what felt like 45 minutes of Bo and Yang on Weekend Update for God knows what reason. But Limu the Emu doing coke is put on Twitter." Barstool writes, "I don't doubt that there are hilarious writers over at SNL, but I also don't doubt that the show has lost itself so badly that the theater kids in charge of the decisions, and Lorne Michaels, who seems to be in his old man who doesn't know up from down era, just have no clue what people want to see. I mean, bleep, they opened the Gillis episode with a Trump-based cold open that only got 0 laughs. It was almost if the writers were saying, oh yeah, you want Gillis hosting? Well, we're going to do a crappy Trump sketch at the top out of spite. The opening was pretty bad. I didn't make it all the way through before I hit fast forward. I will talk more about what people really want in the second half of today's podcast. If you'd like to see the sketch, it's in the Facebook group, Daily Comedy News Podcast Group. So I started wondering, is Shane even controversial? Or are we in a cycle of headlines saying he's controversial? Like, who's actually upset that Shane even exists at this point? I have some thoughts about that. I've started a new Substack I'll talk about in the second half where I wrote about this. I'm not sure there's actually a controversy right now. There was 5 years ago, but I'm not sure there's one this week. As for who's even offended, I did find one guy, which we'll get to in a second. I find myself in the weird position of agreeing with somebody on Fox News. Guy Benson wrote, "If this guy, Shane, wrote or said something that was bad and then maybe went overboard firing whatever, is there no path back to redemption? You can never do anything again? Like, I'm glad SNL ignored that mentality and brought him back, maybe belatedly, because he did a good job." Yeah, Johnny Mac thinks that episode was pretty funny. Fox News contributor Lisa Booth said, "Aren't comedians supposed to push the boundaries and be controversial?" Co-host Charlie Hurt said, "It's not just the humor, it's also the truthfulness. The whole point of court jesters is they tell the truth and it's in a funny way and they get away with it and they don't get beheaded by the king." Co-host Katie Pavlich said, "Americans, people all over, are itching for more comedy. They want to laugh at things, especially in times that feel very heavy. People really want to laugh about these things. And the oversensitivity and calling jokes about certain people hate movements, I think people are really getting tired of that. There's a reason you've seen comedians refusing to go to college campuses, for example, because it's not worth it to them. They're going to go to an audience. And there are many of them that exist where people want to laugh and not take things too seriously. And comedy is a great way to joke and to really establish what's happening in the country, almost a historical record in a way that can be funny. And so people want more jokes. They don't want to be scolded." The Fox News article cites Variety from 2019, quoting Shane. All right, that's a triple quote there. Back then, Shane said, it feels ridiculous for comedians to be making serious public statements, but here we are. I'm a comedian who was funny enough to get SNL. That can't be taken away. Of course, I wanted an opportunity to prove myself at SNL, but I understand it would be too much of a distraction. I respect the decision they made. I'm honestly grateful for the opportunity. I was always a Mad TV guy anyway. Pavlich said, Shane won that one, and I'm sure he'll be back somewhere else even if SNL doesn't have him back. In The Atlantic, Jeremy Gordon writes under the headline, What Shane Gillis Proved on SNL. And I think this is a pretty fair balance to take. Jeremy Gordon writes, the comedian Shane Gillis is fond of joking about all the things he knows he looks like. A high school football coach, a possible parking lot rapist, a police brutality skeptic, someone who asked to go see the rest of the body cam footage before we jump to any conclusions. He'll pose as a recognizable genre of buffoon or creep before subverting those expectations. In his Netflix special, Beautiful Dogs, he pretended to be a rah-rah jingoist before lamenting America's epidemic of gun violence. He also joked about becoming an early onset Republican before noting that his emergent concerns boil down to, why are black guys in every commercial? And mermaids are white. In many of his routines, he embodies the anxieties felt by a certain stratum of straight white men about their waning cultural influence, and then he makes these anxieties the butt of the joke. Gordon writes, in fact, Gillis would likely have never achieved his current level of success had he not been fired by SNL. The podcast where he made those remarks is now the top Patreon account in the world. Today it was announced that Netflix has ordered a scripted show and another special for him. Considering the social penalties foisted on most public figures caught using offensive slurs, this good fortune may seem surprising, but the Gillis incident transpired at the nexus of several phenomena. Ongoing debates about free speech and comedy, spearheaded by celebrity performers such as Ricky Gervais and Dave Chappelle, and the identity-based sensitivities associated with wokeness, and finally, the expansion of an independent media ecosystem centered on podcasts where people can run their mouth without much oversight and connect directly with paying fans. Scrolling down, Gordon writes, back in 2019, when Gillis's offensive remarks first came to light, he said, I'm happy to apologize to anyone who's actually offended by anything I've said. Well, I was offended, and it wasn't just some virtuous pose, it was because he'd repeatedly said something offensive in service of jokes that weren't even good. Time out from me. If they were good jokes, is it okay then? Is there a line there? Gordon writes, some reviews claim that Gillis had bombed his monologue, but I'm not sure about that. I took his nervousness as an honest admission that the night was unconventional and weird, but he was going to get through it. Stand-up comics are always reading the room, and on Saturday, Gillis appeared to be full of humility about the opportunity to prove himself on this particular platform. He said, thank you guys so much. That means a lot to me to be here. I really appreciate it. Gordon said he sounded sincere. Good stuff there. Jimmy Fallon is coming to primetime for one night. It'll be his 10th anniversary of hosting The Tonight Show. This will air Tuesday, May 14th. Fallon told his audience, we're so grateful we get to do this job. I want to thank everyone on our staff and crew, and of course all of you for tuning in every single night for the past 10 years to celebrate. Really, thank you so much. To celebrate, NBC is going to enter a 2-hour primetime Best of Tonight Show special on May 14th. The best moments of The Tonight Show from the past 10 years, featuring some of our favorite sketches, guests, and musical performances, from Tight Pants with Will Ferrell to me almost dating Nicole Kidman, and musical bits like Classroom Instruments with Metallica and Adele. We had so many fun moments. In a statement, Jimmy said, to be able to sit in the same chair as the iconic host before me, it's been my absolute honor to be part of The Tonight Show for the past 10 years. I still pinch myself every day, and I'm so appreciative of the opportunity to stand alongside the giants of our business who have made their mark on this great TV institution. I still think they should have given Conan more rope, but I get why they didn't. Jordan Klepper is excited about the return of Jon Stewart. He was on the Daily Show Ears Edition podcast and said, what an exciting, awesome shock for us to sort of have this person who was really important for so many people's lives here at the Daily Show. I think this last year and a half taught us many things, and one of them is, through the infrastructure of the Daily Show, we have such a very clear voice. Jon came in and sort of was like, here's what I'm feeling about this. This is such an important year. It's an existential threat is what everybody's talking about, and we all know the threat Donald Trump poses, and we also know it looks like it's going to be Joe Biden. What do Democrats feel about this? What are the insecurities people have around this idea? And how do we talk authentically about the fears people have? Really what the show needed was Jon coming in and all of us getting into that room being like, all right, here we are. This is the team. We got Jon Stewart back and we're running as fast as we can till this election. Klepper said, as somebody who came in during Jon's time, stuff mattered. Jon was a comedian and approached it comedy first, but the guy was serious as a heart attack, as smart as you can get, and people tune in to Jon. I tuned into Jon because I trusted him. I trusted that he wasn't bound by party politics. He wasn't bound by BS, and I think people were drawn to that. Johnny Mac's take is I think The Daily Show is going to have an awesome run here into November. The ratings have been pretty good. Haven't seen this week's ratings yet. I'm wondering if there's maybe more to be mined here. Is 11 p.m. on Comedy Central on cable TV, and I know it airs on streaming the next day, I think. Maybe it's the same day, I don't know. Is that the best use? Should this thing air earlier in the evening? Should it air on CBS proper, like I keep saying? I feel like Jon could have a really big summer here. And for The Daily Show, I wonder what's going to happen on the other side. You better use this opportunity to figure out who's next. Trevor Noah used to host The Daily Show. Nice segue, Jon. And the Crypto Times, your home for daily comedy news, said that Trevor was at the Web Summit Qatar 2024 conference. Trevor lamented that he didn't buy Bitcoin when it cost almost nothing. He said not buying Bitcoin was easily the biggest mistake I've ever made. If you're into podcasting, there's a wonderful newsletter called Pod News, and they have this item. The host of The Fighter and the Kid, Brendan Schaub, has lost a legal claim against YouTuber Unique, Yewneek. Now, I didn't get the joke until I actually read it out loud. You probably didn't get the joke till I spelled it. Unique. Anyway, Schaub claimed that a reaction video used Schaub's copyrighted material, and Schaub's lawyers managed to get YouTube to shut down the channel for a 2-year period while the case was ongoing. The judge ruled that the use of Schaub's material was fair use. I lightly mentioned in the first half of the podcast, I've started a Substack newsletter. I always have thoughts about the media, and I'm like, all right, let me actually write them down. It has the really well-thought-out title, John McDermott's Media Thoughts Substack. If you want to follow it, I'm not trying to make money off that thing. So just you have to offer a paid option. Click on the free option. I'm not going to put anything behind the paywall anytime in the near future. It is mcdpod.substack.com. The link is in the show notes. If you need something to watch today on the 800-Pound Gorilla's YouTube channel at 7 p.m. Central, 8 Eastern, it's David Cross, Worst Daddy in the World. That's pretty cool. I would watch that, except it's 80s trivia night. The trivia guys over at the brewery in Morristown, it's 80s trivia night. I cannot wait for this. I better win tonight. This is it. This is in my wheelhouse. If I don't, problem is I don't know movies, and I got to hope my friend Van comes. He knows movies. I better win tonight. I better at least win a t-shirt. I mean, it's 80s trivia night. I can't wait. So I won't be watching David Cross, Worst Daddy in the World on the 800-Pound Gorilla YouTube channel tonight, but maybe tomorrow. If you're up late, Taylor Thompson has Fortune Feemster Mae Martin and Tig Notaro as her guests. That's pretty good. If you need something to listen to, Al Madrigal and Jay Larson have their new podcast, The Dust Up, out today. Netflix has announced Steve Trevino will have a new special. It's called A Simple Man. That'll be out March 12th. A Simple Man sees Steve Trevino tell us what it's like living with a Type A Virgo wife, squabbling over containers and pizza parties. He also shares nostalgic tales of his dad's broken-down truck, 1, an unlikely love story, 2, and comedy rule of 3, and how to face the challenges of raising spoiled kids today. Every press release does the 1, 2, 3. As a husband, father, and son, Steve is just doing the best he can as a simple man. Somebody in the comments one time, like 2 years ago, got so mad when I point out the comedy rule of 3. So I didn't do it for like 2 years, but it's back. I'm doing it. Congratulations, Illiza Schlesinger. She and husband Noah have welcomed a second baby. Ethan arrived weighing 7 pounds, 13 ounces. Illiza told People magazine, I picked Ethan partly because it means strong in Hebrew and because Ethans are usually pretty good looking. And that is your comedy news for today. I had more, but I felt like I got out on a funny note there, so always leave them wanting more. Do you want more? Well, if you want more, I'll be back tomorrow. If you don't already follow the podcast, hit that follow button there. It's like a plus if you're on the Apple Podcast app. Push that. I'm here 7 days a week. See you tomorrow.